What does it take to make workshops work? And how can we facilitate collaboration that sticks and leads to results? My name is Miriam Hartness, and with the Workshops Work podcast, I'm on the mission to find the magic ingredients that make workshops work. Today with me on the show is Shireen Naqvi. And Shireen is a trainer, facilitator, entrepreneur, and philanthropist from Pakistan. And we speak about female leadership, how to normalize emotions and being human in the spaces we facilitate, and what it means to be unprofessional as a facilitator, and how we have to earn it. So stay tuned. And by the way, don't forget to scroll down to the show notes to find out more about my guest and to reach out to her and to subscribe to the show if you like it. Please don't forget that by the end of this year, Workshops Work will retire as a podcast, and from January 2026, it will be rebranded as Unprofessionalism. The format of interviews will remain, and I will remain your host, and I hope that you will remain the audience. Thank you for listening. Shireen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Miriam. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Yes, me too. And after our exploration call that we could have recorded already, I'm just curious in which direction we'll go to access all of your wisdom and experience that you have accumulated over the years.
I hope to do justice to your expectations.
And I always start with the same question. When did you start calling yourself a facilitator? And actually, do you?
The mood of facilitation was, in hindsight, started when I was very young, and my father brought me a blackboard and chalk and hung it up in our veranda behind the house. And I had this imaginary classroom whom I used to then just learn with, and we used to develop together. I had a name for every student in that 30 class, imaginative. And in hindsight, then I thought that was facilitation as well, getting people to find out their inner knowledge and bring it out and put it to practical use. It was as simple as that. There was once a young participant I had, and he very rightly said, what is training about? It's to realize what you already know. And I thought that's such an apt definition of facilitation. Yeah. We do it all the time, Mary. We do it all the time, but we don't realize we limit it to a role in a classroom, which it is not. Yes. So when I talk to the beggars who come to my car window when I'm standing at a red traffic light, I'm facilitating them to think of a vision of getting out of begging and becoming entrepreneurs, how they can fulfill their lives. Those 30 seconds while the red light is turning to green, that's a moment of facilitation. Any exchange of a respectful, a smile, anything that brings about a realization, a reflection is facilitation. What do you think, Miriam?
I love that view. And using every opportunity to access the inner wisdom of the groups. And then from what you say, I hear that facilitation is more of a stance, that we assume that it's not about our knowledge, but it's about the other people's knowledge.
Yes, it's a verb. You can't use it as a noun and attach it to a person in a role, but may activate it anytime, any place, but we do with our children, whether we are with our parents, any moment that somebody says, aha, and light comes on and the penny drops, a solution appears. That could be a moment of facilitation. We facilitate ourselves all the time as well.
Yes, in the best of all cases. Sometimes we forget.
It is part of the personality. I think it's one of personality traits. It's not a profession, maybe.
Yeah. What does it take to learn to become a better facilitator then?
Sure. Now we get into the realm of skill is from moving away from telling to asking. And that's where one has to curb on one's own need to shove things down people's throats, that I know it better, here it is. But unless you get the counter notion before from the person who's contemplating in that or has the need for a solution, I think it's going to be unfair on that person. So first thing is the ability and the skill to listen, which a baby does very well. Baby hasn't learned to speak, but they're able to listen perfectly well. And that kind of those bright eyes that a baby looks up at its mother to, that is the stance. Completely immerse yourself in what the other is saying. Not a put on, but genuine and very sincerely done. That's when the hearts connect, the mind opens, and then you can put in whatever you like. Suggestively, how do you make something and advise a suggestion, not something that they have to do, but a suggestion which will allow them to think, oh, that's a start. And I can plow my way further on my own. My objective is always how to get rid of people. I don't want them to keep coming back. Become independent. I want to close the shop, my shop, and write out of business. Put a board on it, closed, out of business. That would mean people have started trusting themselves and are self-reliant. They're standing on their 2 feet.
I love that. What a vision to get yourself out of business. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's so much depth already in there. And I think it would be beautiful for the audience to also understand a little bit more about where you're coming from, because I think your context, you spoke about beggars, and people who might listen to the show from Europe or from the US, from the air quotes Western world, might think, oh, where is she located? How can she access and help beggars in the street? So you're in Pakistan.
I'm in Pakistan.
And you're
right now in the capital, Islamabad, but my home is in the metropolitan city of Karachi. And I'm sitting here very cold because it is about 5 degrees here, which we're not used to. The Karachi people are not used to it. But I was born in the north, even further north than Islamabad, in a place called Peshawar, which is the capital of the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is where the Pathans live, with Alexander the Great, and entered from Afghanistan into Pakistan. And we've got, that is why the Pathans look very Greek also in their features. They're very fair-skinned and their profiles are very Greek godlike. So it's a different language. It sounds a lot like German because I speak German. My mother was German. She got married to my father, who was from Lahore. She was from Berlin. They met up in Cologne in Germany, and then she came here and lived all her life. Yeah. And that's my background. My paternal my grandparents were from Lahore. And we had this family home, which was 5 stories high, but every story had one room. And we had 32 family members living in those 5 rooms with no
family members. And
there was only a bowl on the roof. So we had to climb 5 stories to go to that pole, do our thing, empty it out, and then clean it up and put it back. But we had the time of our life. And every 3 years, once in 3 years, we used to go to my grandmother in Berlin, live there with her for 3 months for our summer vacations. And we learned table manners. We learned how to do vacuum cleaning and dusting and dishwashing, how to stand in a queue at the post office, how to buy ice creams. This is all at 2.5, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, how to rollerblade on the footpath, play in the sand. So the contrast, my life is such a contrast, which has enabled me to adjust at any place, anywhere. I have no issues living in a dump, or you give me a palace and eat with the queen, then I can do that as well.
Yeah, but when I hear 5 stories with 32 people, 2 very different cultures, that means in at least a sensitivity for facilitation from very early on. How do you facilitate the co-living of so many people in such small space and facilitate the communication across cultures, especially as a woman?
It happens. Well, we saw that happening, like during the day, all the beds will be put up, and at night, the beddings would be put down. And that small space accommodated everyone. You see, these are concepts that the mind registers at a young age. that you find a solution. There are always resources available. For me, that is facilitation. I think, like I said, getting people to find the issues, the solutions to their issues is facilitation. If they have no issues, then bring out the potential. Why did I get into this, Miriam? Because I believe divinely, if you allow me, that we humans are the best creation in the universe. So far, we've not found another creature who's better than us human beings, as we are gifted by birth. What we become is a different thing, right? But I've asked millions of people this question. Can you tell me any being that is better than us? I've read books like The Sapiens and the first discovery of the Lucy girl. And I'm reading about Flores, in Java, where more bones of early, before Homo erectus, even before that, were found. There is no better creature. And then we fight and kill each other. And then we say, oh, I'm in depression. And oh, what am I going to do? I'm helpless. What is this language? What nonsense is this? And Miriam, it makes me so angry. Having read a lot about emotional intelligence, I've learned that anger is the energy of virtue.
Tell me more.
Behind every good deed, virtuous deed is anger. Because anger is pure energy. And even if you can use nuclear energy for destruction or for constructive means, similarly, you can use your anger. So I channelize my anger and put it into this project that I'm doing, living my life around since last 30 years. Very happy with what I'm doing. It's a party.
I love your clear articulation and embracement of anger. And it reminds me of what I read. I think it was Alain de Botton who says, when we're angry, we show that we are optimists.
Yes.
Because we believe in we can see and believe in a different reality, in an alternative, and that it's not there yet makes us angry.
Exactly.
There's a force that can help us to change if used in a non-violent way. Okay? So how do you, is this, and you spoke about emotional intelligence, and we spoke in our exploration call about the concept of unprofessionalism that I'm working on, which means bringing the human back to work. And I think emotional intelligence, especially anger, is something that is very often pushed aside. Let's not touch it. It's dangerous. We cannot control it. So how do you bring emotions and maybe even anger into your work?
And recognize it. Recognize what makes you angry. And that will show you what your values are, what is important to you in your life. So if I walk by on the road, I walk by and there's an accident and there's an injured person lying on the road. And I stop and do something about it. That is my value, compassion, morality, ethics. That's not a law. No law of any country says that a citizen is obliged or must pick up somebody injured from the road. No, but ethics says you must. Now, if I pass by and let that body lie there, the injured person lie there, then what does it show it about me? That I'm apathetic, I'm insensitive. And if I don't even feel anything about it, then I've lost my values. If I don't feel angry about it, I've lost connection with my values. And therefore, I am now characterless and I'm a slave to anybody who comes to command me. That's how nations become enslaved. They have no identity and somebody else comes and takes them over, whether it is through IMF, through the World Bank, whether the United Nations comes and has to feed its poor. If it's an external body that comes and you're sustaining yourself on that, we've lost our values.
Hence the enablement, empowerment of people to help themselves. That's what sounds like your driving force.
Yeah, that's what the word empower, the prefix EM means my power. I decide to give it. Nobody can come and say, I empower you because it's my power. You can create an environment in which people will agree to let their power be implemented. That's the agency. I have agency. I have the power to take risks, to make decisions, and then with action, follow through.
Mm, I love that. And I would like to ask the obvious question. You're in Pakistan, where women's rights are not as common and lived as in other countries in the world. I think you, at some point, you shared a very sad statistic. And I wonder how do you bring at least a moment of hope or a different reality to the spaces that you facilitate and where you train or speak without, and I assume that you acknowledge the reality and still create an alternative view. And I think this can be very inspiring for anyone listening to that. Because if we can learn how you do it in an extreme situation, everything else might be a one.
Yes, sorry. Your earlier question brought in the woman angle, and I missed out on that, but glad you focused on this. And the statistic I had shared with you earlier was that on the global gender index, Pakistan is 148th out of 148. And besides that, the highest violence against women is in most Muslim countries. But the propagation that we do is that, oh, women have equal rights in Muslim countries, not equal, but they're fairly respectfully treated. There are, since I've been born, I've been hearing women being victims of acid throwing because they didn't bring enough dowry, let's say, or they didn't listen to what the mother-in-law wanted when she wanted a glass of water, could hear her and bring it. It is torturous. The amount of women that get are involved in maiming and violence is much more compared to all the deaths, cancer plus malaria plus typhoid plus, like all the road accidents and all combined is less than the amount of women that die through. It was last week in the papers, 50,000 women were killed through violence with their own family members in the world. That is one woman every 10 minutes. And 22% of that 50,000 was in Africa. Now, coming back to here to your question is, when I was born, Miriam, I was the third daughter. I had the firstborn was a girl. She passed away after 2 months. Then my sister was born, and then I was born. When I was born, all my relatives were crying. Oh, it's another girl. Had there been a boy that was born, they would have been dancing away and giving out sweetmeats, and there would have been fireworks and whatnot. But I never knew that. My parents never told me till much, much later. When I was in my 50s, they told me. Then there's another thing here when families have too many girls in there. Then they say, oh, the youngest daughter normally said, oh, you're just like my son. So the girl normally takes on this role of a boy. We have got fixed roles here. If you're born a boy, you have to act like this. If you're born a girl, you have to do this. And this carries on throughout life. So when the girl is told, oh, you're just like my son to me, the girl falls into the role and starts taking responsibilities and bread earning and all kinds of. Anyway, I was never told by my parents that you're like a boy. But I never heard anything like that there's a difference between a boy and a girl. I didn't know that. We used to ride bikes to school, which was highly unusual, especially in Peshawar at that time, where it is a very conservative society where all women wear those shuttlecock burqas, with just a net in front of the eyes. We used to bike to school, my sister and I. We used to go swimming. We were tennis champions. Playing tennis. My father was director of sports of Peshawar University. So we used to play cricket, badminton, hockey, football, you name it. We were in everything. And we used to get medals left and right, and javelin throw and shot put and 1,000-meter races and whatnot. Till I arrived in college, I went to college for 4 years. years in Lahore, which is the historic Mughal city of Pakistan, where my paternal grandparents also lived. And there, the first time I heard other girls say, "Oh, I'm a girl and I can't do this." And he said, "What is this language? What is she talking about?" So the point being that I was never raised to realize gender, that I'm a girl and there's a boy. I was never made to think that. And therefore, till today, I don't even know when I'm addressing someone, is there a gender uniqueness, which some may say it's very blind-sighted. But for me, everybody is a citizen of the universe, entitled to the same respect and trust, and the expectation to rise to challenges of their lives. So now, when I hear all this, but then women need a lot of hand holding. They invite me to conferences and say, "Please tell us how we can build confidence in women. How can we support them?" That factor is across the board. It's not improving, Miriam. Over decades, I've been in this work, 30 years. It has not improved. The number of women in the professional world has much increased. Now we've got a directorate from our Securities and Exchange Commission, which says there have to be so many percentage of women at the board, so many percentage of women at senior leadership. So they've defined for every tier. Some companies are ferociously attacking this and going, quickly, let's get the women in and quickly develop them to become, some CEOs say, "I am willing to give my chair, my position away to a woman, whoever comes and grabs it first." So the enthusiasm is fantastic. And we're going to see this bloom into a beautiful garden because the momentum has got on. If you have read that book, it's called Half the Sky. It's written by two journalists who've been around the world studying women's issues. It's called Half the Sky because if only men are holding up the sky, half the sky is going to fall down on us. So how do we get the other 50% of the world activated to lift up the sky with us? Anyway, so yeah, that's the reality. You're right. Even now I go on a bike to my office or go to the market to do my grocery shopping on a bike. And people on the road say, "Oh, look at her, look at her." They're aghast that a woman is on the bike. And I just wave at them and say, "Good morning, assalamu alaikum." And we become friends because one of my values is not to let my car exhaust come out unnecessarily to damage the climate. So I go off the bike. And why should I value if everybody around me is making fun of me? It's too pathetic. But normally people give up on those values because what were people going to say? That's the only value left behind. Yes. So it is, I have never found it difficult. Here we have separate queues. For example, at the airport, when you're going through security, there is a separate queue for women and a separate queue for men. Now, if I go and buy on Sundays, we have this delicious breakfast of a flan made in oil with a lot of halwa. Halwa is a sweet meat and then very spicy food. Now there are long queues waiting for that hot bread to be made. There's a separate queue for women. And I said, "No, I will stand in the men's queue. Why should I be unfair to the 50 men and I should get the food before them?" "No, madam, you please come stay." No. So I have to take a stand, but other women don't. They will be very happy to get their turn kahan first. See, where do you start being fair then? Because if you sometimes stand in the men's line, you get sexually harassed. It could happen. It has happened to me often as a younger woman. Many times have I been sexually harassed, right? So that's why you put in a separate line. But it's what is the stance? That's how I teach the young girls. I facilitate them that how do you walk? Show me how you walk up the street. And they will go like this, all covered like this. So then you're saying little object. Yeah. How do you use your head humble, show humility, but show confidence? And then automatically, and then smile and greet. You're not inviting, you're acknowledging. The harassers are those just want attention and they'll go to force even to get that. How do you deal with it? Learn. So that's how we start the conversation about being self-reliant on the street. For example, this young girl, she used to work with me. She's lovely, long, silky hair. So one day she started coming with, the whole thing covered like this. So I asked her, Sumaira, what happened? And she said, the 2 minutes I have to walk from the bus stop to the office, I get so many cat calls on the way. Now I've put my head into this 2 meter cloth and nobody says anything to me. She's safe. Yeah. So the another girl, she was wearing a doctor's white coat. And I asked her, you're not a pharmacist. You don't work in a laboratory. You're not a doctor. Why are you wearing a white coat? She says, in the bus, when I come in the public transport, I get a lot of respect because of this coat.
Wow.
So I'm safe.
Yeah.
You see, this is the outer, the form versus the content. We are a society that goes by the form. How do you look? How do you smell? How does it taste? The outer senses. We haven't even arrived at the inner senses of values, of thinking, of intellect, of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear or what I assume is that when you walk into a room, potentially full of men, as their trainer, as their facilitator, from your body language and your appearance, you create this accessible authority, maybe? Or how do you, because I think there is something, as you described how you speak to the young women, how you walk the street defines how men react to you. And I think how you walk into a space where you're supposed to be trusted, respected, trusted also to create the container, to create the safe space, to give guidance.
It's never occurred to me, Miriam. Wonderful you're asking. I never thought of it that way. But now that you're putting it, I walk into a space with a sense of responsibility that I'm here to give something and earn, maybe earn their respect. If it's good enough for them, if it is valuable, if it is useful, then I deserve it. But the sense of discipline and responsibility is the first thing, without even having to notice what is the impression I'm making when I walk in. It's never occurred to me. No. It's an obligation, and not even an obligation. It's a mission. It's a crusade that I want to say. And may I succeed in this, in just making people feel that they are very, very precious. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That's it.
Because I believe that we have to feel safe ourselves first before we can create safety for others. So if I don't feel safe, I make myself small. I might become defensive. And if I make myself small and I'm defensive, how can I create safety for others? Right? Cannot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I wonder what it takes to then create this safety. And maybe it's our upbringing. Maybe it's something that don't control. And somehow I wish that we can still learn that as you're teaching the girls. Because it has happened to me once and I never let it happen again. When I was very early in my facilitation career, that a client just took over. I was standing there facilitating the process. And at some point, the client was just talking through me to a point that at some point I sat down. And I think,
Then what did you do? Then what did you do?
And then I spoke to him in the break, asking him what he expected and what was his perspective, and that I was there to support, and whether he had some feedback about the process. Well, his feedback was very clear that, in the workshop, there are only 2 people whose opinion actually matters. So, and you don't know these people, so I know whose voices to bring into the room so that we have the discussions we need to have. So it's really nice what you prepared, but it's missing the mark.
What was your reaction then?
I was flabbergasted, at first. And accepted, I accepted it. I was like, if this is how you operate, it's not why I believe we're here. And it's not how I believe we'll get the results that will move you forward. I didn't work with them again.
Oh.
And I learned my lesson. Yeah.
All right. There you are.
Yeah. And I think with this in mind, I'm coming with my questions to hear about your experience and how to navigate a space where it's normal that there are hierarchical differences based on gender and status.
They are very clearly defined for people. Status and positions and are very important to people. It is about the agreement on the goal, the common agreement that we start out a facilitation session, then we come to a common agreement. And that is anybody then during the process is going off tangent. We can always justify, we collectively agreed on this. Let's move back into that realm. And if there are voices who were not heard earlier, we could still bring them in. If there are different voices, let's hear them as well. But let's make it a collective thing again. Revisit, redefine, and move on. I can always change my agenda. You can always improvise. No issue at all. Change everything. And this is what experience teaches. You see, for example, I was told in Lahore, there was a company, and I was told that I go to work with the factory staff. And factory staff is mostly hardly even educated. So we have a wonderful program called ACT. That's called Attitude, Communication, Teamwork. ACT. And we do this with pre-litrics or on the factory floor. And I made the workbooks and they're all icon based. So they're all pictures. There's no text in them. And all the facilitation is through exercises and simulation. So once when I entered their auditorium, I see all the senior executives walk in. And I have these books with pictures and all my presentation is the same. Anyway, I was a young trade then and facilitator. And suddenly this idea came to me and then I explained to them, whatever content we're going to cover today, you have to cascade up to the factory floor people. And therefore, the workbooks and the material is prepared for them. So you know how to articulate it to them. And I got away with it. And it became so genuine and it was very, very useful. But that was agreeing on. So I gave them something to think about that, oh yeah, if I know something, everybody in my company must know that as well. Whether it's the vision of the company, the values, how to bring the values to life, how do we build relationships and what makes a strong team and everything is applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
To improvise. But we have to be every viewpoint of every audience.
And I love that. If you can communicate to a group who is illiterate, so how can you break it down to the easiest, simplest way? It's like breaking down concepts to children. Then it shows that you really understood it. And I think it will even make it easier for adults, because I think very often adults nod along and pretend as if they understand everything just because they don't dare to say, wait a minute, can you please explain?
And also, Miriam, there's a child in every adult.
What do you mean by that?
If you appeal to the child, then they really become genuine and authentic. And then the real learning begins.
Yeah. Yes. And I wonder, you have to do it in a very gentle way, right? Because the child is still there. I agree. And then we have put all this armor on. So I think even this client back in my early days who interrupted me and took over, who mainly unconsciously, I think, made me the facilitator I am today, fearless, ever again. I'm sure he also had an inner child, or not an inner child, but he had a child, definitely an inner one. How do you access that? How do you access the playfulness?
The playfulness,
and maybe the childlike
curiosity, exactly. A lot of happiness. You have an aura about yourself, a presence that breathes energy. loud, very, very strong energy and happiness. And then the daring, you can do it. This is no problem for you. Jump into it. Come on. And just give them the little bit of just briefing little instructions and the inner need to investigate, to find out the novelty of it, and to stretch yourself, a sense of achievement, the desire to prove yourself. All of that starts coming out, and they become board members and chairmen and chair ladies, and they all become children on the floor, crawling without their shoes and whatnot, and skipping rope and everything they do. No issue. And they love it. Sometimes I'm very hard also. I'm very, very hard when it comes to things that they say these are our values and they're doing something different. Then I come down very hard. And later they come and tell me, we are so glad that you were, this, it's not abuse. It's that you were strict with us, or that you told us off. Let's say you told us off.
Yeah. And I guess it was your anger coming out, right?
There you are. And it's so genuine. The anger is, I believe in you. You can do better.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm angry. It's just out of love. Yeah, that's another word. The child wants love. And we here don't get much love. The word love is not allowed, actually. Yeah. But everybody wants it and needs it. And when you demonstrate that in a trusting environment with respect, they just open up.
Yeah. And what I hear is this, hear so many things actually. That you, from your inner stance, you have to walk into the room ready to fall in love with every participant.
You already love, yes.
So the way you love a child. So you see them, you trust them, you believe in their inherent goodness.
Yes.
Even if they might act out. And I hear that the way we give permission to children to just test it. You cannot fail. Just try it. You can do it. I know that you can do it. When a child is first time on a bicycle, afraid to fall. And this has a very empowering way of speaking and encouraging someone, as opposed to belittling. Because there are two different ways how we can speak to children. And I think one might trigger because it's belittling. Let me explain you. And the other one is, hey, we're all human. Yes, of course you can do it. You have permission.
And along with, you've got to combine it with the full trust on your intellectual capacity. So here you're giving love and all the heart to open them up. But now you got to deliver through your intelligence, right? So when you hook these two up, then the moment of inspiration happens, the self-inspiration. They inspire themselves. Then, oh, we did it. You see, that is the moment where you rise to the next level of certainty. I love these two quotes, which I'd learned from another teacher of mine, a great gentleman. He's a educational philosopher. And he quoted first Shakespeare in his play, Measure for Measure. He says, doubt is a traitor and oft makes us lose what we might win by fearing to attempt. So he calls doubt, which is a low confidence. So I keep sitting that, no, I'll get hurt. So I will not attempt. Whereas in contrast, there is the famous Eastern philosopher, Imam Ghazali. And Ghazali says the opposite. He says doubt is a form of grace. Not a traitor, but grace. It means God wants to raise you to a higher level of certainty. So in the first case, uncertainty or doubt takes you over and you succumb to it. In the second case, you rise above doubt to the next level of certainty. And there's so much depth in these two, and that is the moment of inspiration. So either you let doubt come over you and you live in a state of belief, which is completely disempowering, Or you get over, like if they invite me to your house and I don't have Google Maps, but you say take a left here and go right and then go straight. And I say, oof, I've lost it. I cannot. But if I make it once to your house, then I'll say I can do it again.
Yes.
So I rose to the next level. I conquered the uncertainty and I'm so much better off with it. So this is the ladder of learning, as we call it, from ignorance to becoming a star player.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love is that there's a tension there. So doubt as such is not good or bad. It depends what you make out of it and how you live up to it or face it. And the other tension is with the intellect, as you just brought. On the one hand, you believe and trust in the collective intelligence of the room. That's why we are facilitators. And at the same time, we are not bystanders accepting their limited intellect in the moment. Yes, you can do it. Pushing them. Or even, as you explained, calling them out that this is not okay because they're contradicting themselves. So I think where I'm heading is what is true for doubt is also true for the neutrality of a facilitator. We do need the neutrality in order to be open and embrace everyone, but we don't want to be as neutral that everything is acceptable.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Very right. Very nicely said. And then there's another quote. I think I read it in the book by Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant, within one of his first ones, in which he says the best way to grow is to doubt your beliefs. So this brings another angle in where you're doubting your current level of beliefs. Okay, so what can I do at that? Is there anything better? Is there an alternative? And like pluralistic thinking, you bring an idea and I bring the counter idea, the antithesis and the thesis of it. And we build on is something new comes out of it. You see, it's a fantastic process of critical thinking and emotional upheaval. It's self-reflection. It's just fantastic. But in a classroom, that is a great method that brings out a better alternatives for people. Instead of taking something and feeding them, to give them the system where they can develop it themselves.
Yeah. And to sit in the clarity. And I would be curious how you navigate a space where there might be tough conversations coming up. So they have different opinions. You created a space where they feel safe enough to show their emotions, right? So to be a little bit more unleashed. How do you ensure that it stays constructive? So how do you navigate the emotions? And I think what's behind my question is in the exploration call, you mentioned that you're bringing the unprofessional out of your participants.
I was just thinking of this example, one that occurred to me very early again in my profession. We have a institute where government bureaucrats come for 14 weeks when they're promoted from one grade, very high grade, to the next higher grade of bureaucracy. And they invited me always on the first day to do team building with them. So their 14 weeks would be bonded and all of that. So anyway, we were doing what are the best attributes of a team, of a high performing team and so on. And great traits came out. And then this gentleman, he spoke up and he said, he was the head of the police. And he said, I have killed 93 criminals, 93 humans I have killed. How can you fit all that you're talking about in with my experience? Now, that was a very high emotional state that was in it. It just brought all the energy down that we had built up in the first hour or so. What does one do at that point then? You can't dismiss the trauma behind it. You can't let it take over the whole class because others may not have had it. Mm-hmm. What do you do? My thing is always, and would you like to continue with that? Would you like to rise above it? Or would you like to stay at this level, at this traumatized state? No, of course I don't want to stay. I want to come out of it. So that is what we're trying to build here together. What is a better state? Even if this is what your job requirement is, how can you manage your own nervous system in a better way? So then you trying to join in and take over. Okay, what can we do next? That's always the best way to formulate the question. What else is there? Why else? How else?
This is so beautiful. What I hear is you're suddenly giving them choice. So everything is else. And in their hands, and they have to empower themselves, as you've said before. It's not you. They have to make the decision. Do you want to continue that?
Even that gentleman, the example you gave, who took over your session and then you had to speak to later, even at that point, you just have said, would you like to continue the way it is? That it's only two people's voices that are, would you like it to continue this way? And he would say, no, of course not. We all have voices. Said, okay, then how can we achieve that? So it's redefining that, but ultimately coming to the benefit of society, betterment of the company, progress of the people, the higher goal.
And if he had, because I'm pretty sure that he would have said, yes, it's always been that way. I would like this to continue because it's easy. We don't need all these other people's opinions. Would you then continue because it basically goes into coaching, right?
Yes.
To ask them whether this is what the opportunities are that they see or the missed opportunities.
I would bring the crowd in. I would bring the rest of the audience into the discussion and then say, okay, let's see what others have to say about it. Let's see where this is going to, what are the pros and cons? If we continue this way, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
How does it benefit or harm the company? If we turn to what are the other assortments that we can explore? And then see what are the benefits, pros and cons of that. Let them then decide.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this was the moment where I understood the concept of facilitation, that there's the mix between facilitated manipulation, where there are some clients who think they can hire a facilitator, pretend as if it was a group process, but the outcome has already been defined. And then suddenly you're just the person being used as the facilitator.
I like that. Well said, Miriam.
And it's sad because it exists, but I think as soon as we have realized that it exists, then we have choice and do something against it and protect ourselves.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Quite right. But tell me again, we were hunting for this word. Let's explore it further. Unprofessionalism. Yes. Would you like to steer the conversation towards that or bring out something else? Yes, please carry on.
So, and maybe we can start with the question, what makes a professional facilitator or trainer? And what is your understanding of unprofessional? No, let me ask the other question. I'll ask you the question that I will ask always on the other podcast. What's been an unprofessional action you have taken that turned out to be the best thing you could have done?
I think the definition of the word varies from person to person, which is nominalization, which is common. Now, professionalism is understood to be you have to be very strict and stern. There are no such emotions, like it used to be in Abraham Maslow's times and the Industrial Revolution and all that, where your things like your passion, courage, your sentiments, the meaningfulness of something was of no consequence. For me, the modern professional includes all that. But normally when you enter a company where this is not required, I mean, this is unusual, and there I go and even hug people. That seems very unprofessional. But who cares? They open up. And that's what I want. We want to get to the truth, right? And we want to get there fast, efficiently and effectively. And if it does, call me unprofessional if you like. But my goal is that you could do better than you are Let's go on that journey together. I don't know whether that answers it, but yes, it appears unprofessional, but it gets the ball rolling.
So, and I love that. And thank you for also making this distinction, because that's exactly how I define the difference between or the edge between professionalism and unprofessionalism. Because when we have, and that's where maybe status comes in.
Yeah.
That if who are you who can come into these spaces and hug the clients to break the barrier of professionalism immediately with a seemingly or highly unprofessional action and still be recognized, right? So that they maybe lose their armor so I would be curious, where do you see the edge? Who can do that and who cannot? Because I think it's a fine line.
Wow, who can do that? You can do it if you do it naturally at home. In my office, one I have for my young people, my school of leadership, where we do leadership skill training for all the young people in the country. You come there and you'll see some of them sitting under the table, not at the table. They will be sitting with their laptops under the table. Somebody else will be playing music and dancing to it. Somebody will be washing the toilets, washing the dishes. Somebody will be mending the torn curtain or any, and the whole, and then we would invite people in and say, go and find out, where does the CEO sit? And they would walk around the office and there's no office for the CEO. Where does the CEO sit? Oh, at the same table that anybody else is sitting on, or under the table even. So apparently it looks very unprofessional, but it's the most highly creative stance. Creativity comes out in that form of relaxation. After lunch, we all used to dance to digest the food and get our energies bang up again. Now, anybody from outside would say, this is terrible. What is this culture you have developed here? But it is exactly what everybody wants. They would go out and do the same thing as their organization then, because it does bring out the best in people. It's become part of professionalism. You see, when you come in the Industrial Revolution, people used to come and work 10 hours in a factory and do the same thing, putting lids on bottles, for example, 10 hours of assembly line. And we didn't want their spirituality. We didn't want their emotionality. No, we just wanted the body and a little bit of the brain. And they were paid for that. So they were a cog in the wheel, as was very often written about them. Now we don't want that. We want your thinking, your imagination. We want your ability to visioneer, to live up to values. We want all of your personality, your spiritual being as well. We want it all to come in. And that's called unprofessional.
Yeah.
It's maybe, but I think people are less that it works. It ought to be allowed.
Yeah. I wonder whether there's one thing that you said earlier and that I find now again in the dance, and what you describe as to unleash creativity, is nervous system regulation. And I wonder whether professionalism very often is a protection that we put on when our nervous system is not regulated. Because it makes us maybe unapproachable, or it's easier not to suddenly do something that wouldn't be appropriate. But if we do regulate our nervous system, and I think dancing is one of the best way to do that, or hugging, touch.
Yeah.
And then this helps to move beyond this armor.
But to break it, Miriam, people have been from their childhood through their teenage and then later all with this, the armor. The armor is so powerful, it's so strong. What has been your best way of breaking it?
I start my sessions with a stretching. I ask them to get up off their chairs and to stretch their bodies. That usually helps. I play music and I dance, and I invite them to dance with me. So I do a lot of my work online. So that's and humor. I think speaking, and it's maybe not even humor. I wouldn't call myself a very humorous or funny person, but I think I'm good at normalizing things, speaking about my own emotions, and thereby showing others that it's okay to speak about theirs.
Vulnerability. All right.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. And I won't even give them the opportunity to know that there's an armor going to be in the room. Sorry, it ain't gonna work. You got to shut it all. Not even acknowledge it right from the beginning. Just go about it as if I've got these best people in front of me and they're here for this cause. So people at a higher pedestal, raise the expectations to a level of nobility. And then
need to live up to it.
automatically start rising to that level. And it's genuine. I really, really believe, yes, they belong there. These expectations from a child, and the child delivers. So the adults do too. They've just been subservient and or just listening and becoming not having their own voice. And suddenly they're being asked, "What is your opinion? What do you think about it?" And suddenly, oh, we've got an idea, we've got a thought, we can think. Maybe here in the West, it's very common to be asked, "What is your opinion?" But here, nobody asks. I have to teach these 4 words to people. Please go at home and practice it with your children. They too have an opinion and you've never asked, like your parents never asked you. So start practicing at home.
Yeah. And then I do think that many are afraid of what they might unleash. So once they open the gates, but what if I cannot control it, right? What if we start hugging each other and then they think that lower quality is okay? If they think I'm their friend, they will show up to work late. They will deliver bad quality. They will think that it's okay. And I assume that this is then where your hard side comes out, because you must set boundaries at the same time.
Absolutely.
I wonder whether this is actually the result of more nepotist cultures where, you hire your cousin and your friend and then everything is okay and you don't look for the quality. And then very quickly the assumption is that if you welcome or treat someone like your cousin, it also means that they don't feel the consequences of breaking the rules.
But that's why our vision statement is freedom with discipline. So within the boundary of whatever promises you make, you got to fulfill punctuality, time consciousness, deadlines, accuracy of communication. All of those things are defined by the values of win-win, integrity, all of those values that we have. And within that, we're free to be creative and do as you like. But there is no harm that has to come. And if I win on the condition that everybody around me wins as well. But when you have that, and it's so deeply ingrained in all my team members, then our mission statement is cultivate distinction. What makes Miriam distinct? What makes the other? Everybody has a distinction, which makes us unique individuals. But then the vision is freedom with discipline. And everybody rises to that standard. There is no shortcuts then. There is no coming late or delivering short of the promised quality. Doesn't happen.
I like
So
that.
you have to be firm, but you have to be fair. And where does the fairness comes in? That comes from the value system, the vision, all of it defines. That's the soul of the company there. Yeah. So whenever I come talking to a client, whether it is communication skills, negotiation, anything we do, delegation, anything, the first question I always said, please, can I have your latest vision, mission, and values? And that's where we anchor everything into. So then any distortion, anything that goes off tangent, we say, hang on, let's consult what our VMV is saying. And then it has to come back and follow to place. So if they say no, if follow up, for example, a great menace in our companies is follow up. So if I've promised that I'll give you a report at 5 o'clock this evening, And you call me at 5:30 saying, Shireen, where is that report you promised me? You are following up with me, right? At that point, I should give in my resignation because I made a promise and I didn't deliver on it. But here, people have made it part of their own job description to follow up. Of course, I have to follow up. People don't work without follow up. Is that the level of integrity? And they think this is one of their most important jobs to be doing that. Now, how do you take that away in a one training session? How do you get rid of that idea, that attitude? And you have to make it very cruel, very hard. I mean, like I said, you have to send in your resignation today if you have to be followed up.
Yeah, what I hear in that is a sort of consumerism, that expecting others to do the work and leaning back. And I think that's something that we often as facilitators and especially as trainers have to fight against, this attitude of, oh, I can lean back and you serve me the knowledge. And the first thing I tell them, okay, this is not a webinar. If you came here to do something else, I need to disappoint you because it doesn't work like that. And it will turn into a webinar if you're not communicating with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then it will be boring. But I think how to wake them up to not fall into the trap of consumption and false expectations.
Quite right. That is then truly unprofessional. Yeah.
Yes. And then I would like to come back to the scene you described. You come to a new client and you hug them.
Yeah.
Would Shireen 20 years ago or 30 years ago been able to do that with the same effect? Or what had...
No.
So what had to happen in between for this to be effective?
I would do that to a new client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody I've built a relationship with and I'm comfortable with. We have an association. We have victories to share.
Mm-hmm.
Only those I would hug, right?
Okay, great.
Also, in 30 years, I've done my work so much that I've made a name, and that my age is a huge benefit to me. Most of the people are much younger, and they themselves, especially the girls, when they're ladies, they come and we hug each other. It's some gentlemen as well I've become comfortable with, and but very lightly, gentle touch or something like that. And that's what I meant. And then it continues. That relationship. It is understood that when we meet, we'll hug each other, but not at the first instance. Not.
Yeah. But
you can't even shake hands in the different genders.
Yes.
So it's my age advantage. I'm grandmother, so yep.
And your status, I assume.
The respect.
Very high respected and well regarded.
It is.
So I find this nuances very interesting because we cannot, while we judge professionalism, seems like we can put all the behaviors that we put into the professionalism into one box, and it's very difficult to discuss them. Being punctual, not making mistakes, knowing what you're saying, using specific words, knowing how to eat with cutlery. I don't know, everything that you learned from your grandmother in Berlin. Very professional.
Yeah.
So it feels to me now, and I'm thinking out loud, as if what professionalism is not so much debatable, but unprofessionalism is highly dependent of the context, of the culture, of what has happened before, of who does it.
Interpretation in the culture.
Yeah.
You see, when I go to Germany, visit my family there, a lot of the things that I do here very naturally in Pakistan, in this conservative society, I can't even do there because, what will people say? Oh, look at her. She's so crude. This natural, supposed unprofessionalism of just being joyfully walking on the road. No, Germany, you can't do that. No. It's looked upon very strangely. You get it?
Yes, I remember I came back, I spent 2 months in Namibia when I was a master student to do some research. in Namibia, it's so lowly populated that whenever you see people on the street, you say hello, you greet them. So I came back to Germany and I started greeting random people in the street, and they looked at me as if I was a crazy person. Yeah. So I know what you're talking about.
Is that professional or unprofessional? Tell me, as a human being.
Yeah, and then I think it's regarded as highly unprofessional, but this is what creates connection, and
it's the interpretation, the customs.
And it's the courage to go first, I think. And that's also something we do and must do as facilitators, and that you do when you walk into the room, assuming that everyone is already at the level.
Yes.
I notice, so I run a lot, and when I have a good day, I just smile at people and say, and greet them along the way. So I run, and everyone who's kind of coming my way, I look at them and I smile and I greet them, and get so many smiles and greetings back. And while usually pedestrians are always annoyed by runners, the way, and it's a small gesture that doesn't cost much and creates an immediate good feeling on both ends.
Right.
We forget that.
Absolutely. So my definition of true professionalism is being a good human being. That's it, which a mother can be, a little vendor at a cart can be, your vegetable salesperson can be, anybody can be professional, which is just being true. And it's using your emotions intelligently, serving. I think the word for me, very precious to me, is service. It's like prayer, but I can be of service to someone, but not altruistically, not that, no, because it satisfies me.
Yes.
We're all selfish.
Very selfishly.
At the end of the day. So if I greet you nicely, for example, like you're saying, you greet people on the way. You know what happens to you? Your dopamines and your serotonins and oxytocins get excreted in your body and you become healthy. Maybe the other people are happy too, but what happens to your body when you appreciate, when you are grateful and you show it? You are becoming a healthier person.
Yeah.
And that for me is professionalism. Whether some people interpret as unprofessional, so be it.
What would be an unprofessional action that you would advise others to do?
Advise, well, exactly all the things that I'm saying. Be yourself, be authentic. Don't let me have to dig layers out of you to find and then make a connection. That's too inefficient. Time is too precious to be pasting and throwing away like that. But there are some things that I would not like people to do, and I would do that, is, for example, lying. That I would purely put away as truly unprofessional.
Yes.
Making promises that you cannot keep, being disrespectful, even in gestures, like when if you're sitting and having a meal together, burping loudly or making strange scratching noises on strange parts of your body, all those things, I think they're not only unprofessional, they're indecent. But then one has to walk into society is where these things are not known. I go into villages where people don't know how to sit, stand, eat, walk without being vulgar at times even, or how they don't even know their hands are all over going on their bodies. And we teach self-awareness on those, how to sit, how to, in larger companies, especially these youngsters that I pick up, they come from villages and now they've risen to a point where they're talking to the World Bank and the United Nations and making millions of dollars of deals and projects with them. They're opening their own schools. They're educating others now in the villages. I went to a village in southern Punjab where we went with an organization and had 3 days of half-day trainings with young girls, 13 to 18-year-olds, how to build confidence, how to present themselves. And they didn't know anything about even hygiene or how to walk, how to look. They were just giggling and shy all the time and covering themselves up. And by the end of the third day, they were walking with confidence, with humility. They were able to express themselves. they became ambassadors of that organization that was the sponsor. It just takes 1.5 days to do it. I mean, 3 days, half. Um, because the need is there, as long as you can connect to the need in the individual. If you're hungry, you would find your food. But if you're not hungry, any amount of food lying there will not appease you. So that you dig out the hunger and they will crave for it. And they are already craving. And that they make it on their own.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by these layers because, as you say, it's there's some gestures, and that's the discipline that you spoke to. Freedom within discipline, scratching body parts, burping, farting is very human, and still it's not something that we appreciate being around with. So it is usually unprofessional. Being authentic, as you said, is let's be authentic, but authenticity does not mean lashing out on someone or not being emotionally aware or mature.
Quite right.
So from what I hear is you have to earn. So being unprofessional has to be earned. So you need a certain level of self-awareness, excellence, and maturity.
Yes. And then it varies from culture to culture. Like I said, in Pakistan, we're very articulate, very highly emotional people. We're very expressive. We use a lot of gestures. But I can't do the same when I'm in Germany. I have to be little, contained in my gestures, articulation, and the volume of my voice, or even the inflection of voice. It changes from civilized country to country, culture to culture, naturally. And to be able to adapt to that is also professionalism.
So how do you define authenticity?
I think all of this, the more you can build this into your persona and live up to it, that is authentic. You're just more sensitive towards it. And that sensitivity becomes your authenticity.
Because I think again, it's very nuanced, the level of self-expression, right? So it can be very authentic you, and I think even in some spaces in Germany, I'm German. I think I'm more expressive than many of the Germans.
Okay.
Is a form of authenticity. If I would suppress it, it's inauthentic. But if I'm sensitive that I want to articulate my expression in a different way, then it can be authentic. So,
I think it's just a matter of adapting. You're not suppressing. You're not suppressing. You're being wise by being kind to the other person. So if I come to your house, I would quickly figure out what is my modus operandi here. And I would adjust to your ways. It's called do in Rome as the Romans do, right? You adjust to that place. Even when I go to my house, I go adjust to her place, to her norms of living. And that's just kindness. That's not unauthentic.
and it's respectful to first observe how others are doing and trying to adjust to that. After so many years of being a trainer, being an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, what is the advice you would give your younger self? Or what do you wish you had known when you got started?
When I got started, I wish I had been more patient. Patience is, especially young youth. I think youth is not very impatient. I wish I had more patience and more confidence, in more faith that, okay, wait, it'll come, it'll happen. You learn it, no worries. It doesn't happen like a, intravenous shot or something. That's what I would tell my younger self, because we are in a rush. We are in a hurry to quickly get there or get that. And my advice to all the younger people is that hold on, be consistent, persist in what you want to do, and it will work out. hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. Showing up, delivering value, consistent, being of service.
It is the journey, not there is no destination. Enjoy the journey. That's the best part. Once you've reached the destination, it's all over.
What is the future of facilitation for you?
I think is going to be a very small part of human interaction is going to be much smaller. People are going to get used to what AI is coming up with. It's very, very productive, very useful. It is going to towards more will lean more towards becoming counseling or coaching or one-on-one, more attitudinal and more emotional things that AI till now cannot do. Maybe later it can still. Yeah, I think it's going to be lovely. We will be able to cover much more. It'll be a different facet. Yeah, it's going to be not even a hybrid. It's going to be more tilted towards technology and less human intervention. But that human intervention is going to be very intimate, more intimate than in a classroom. Yeah, it's going to be more one-on-one.
Yeah. Beautiful. And then the unprofessional, the human will become even more important to facilitate that.
Yes. Like tuitions, on a subject, you get tuitions. It's going to be more like personality tuition, professional tuition, career guidance tuition, things like that for instead of workshops and training and all that. Because a lot of the companies we work for here now, even they've got their own in-house modules already. They don't need a trainer to come in and do much. And it's the occasional strategic session or, something has to be aligned, bring people to the strategy. Then they call us it. It's turning towards that as well. So e-learning is very popular.
Yeah. And I think it's sad or dangerous because we learn through, and that's what we covered, right? We learn through the connection, through nervous system regulation, through creativity, through doing, through speaking.
Yeah. I guess that'll be more on the job, more on the floor, because the 70-10-20 rule is that the 10% is in the classroom. The rest, 90% you learn as you go along, right? The walk in the park is what makes you see more than the pictures in the book. And that's what it is. Doesn't matter. Just adapt and adjust. And it's the new word.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miriam. It was beautiful. Thank you so much time you invested with me. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Very inspiring. Thank you for staying tuned and for listening until the very end. I hope that you found the inspiration and the wisdom that you are looking for. And I hope that you will subscribe to the show so that you never miss any of the interviews with another inspiring facilitator from across the world. I'm devoted to continue this podcast and to deliver weekly an episode that maintains the quality that you expect and you deserve. And if you would like to help me to maintain this quality and to keep the podcast free, please help us. Visit workshops.work/support to make a small donation to keep the podcast free. Thank you so much. I hope to be in your ears next week.